I want to talk to you a little bit about negotiation and how to be able to do things. Now, I've had to negotiate all kinds of deals throughout my career. Stephen Covey has one of his 7 habits is, think win-win or no deal. That's number one thing. It's got to be good for both sides. And of the millions and millions of dollars that I've had to negotiate for different things like real estate or for businesses or contracts or things like that, it all comes down to a couple things. Now, one thing a lot of people think is that you've got to be a jerk, to get the best deal. Well, and a salesman's got to wrench them into the corner and, not give them an out, put them into a box. And so they have to do what you want. My friend Robert Allen says that forced against your will, you have the same opinion still. So if you're too bully and you beat people up, they're going to back out later, and you're not solving the problem. So the real goal, the key to all negotiation, the key to all selling, is to find a problem and solve it. The problem might be the price. Somebody else is delivering something, but it's not the right price. It could be other issues that people are having. It could be just whatever it is. So in negotiating, the real key is make sure it's win-win or no deal. And the real key is find out what people need. Find out what people need and ask them questions. Ask them questions. You'll notice that we ask you a lot of questions. I have an opinion, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fulfill and help you with whatever it is that you need. Well, I need to be able to ask you those questions before you can go there. Now, one of the things as I was negotiating all these big real estate deals that I've done, and I've done a lot of real estate as well as other things, is that we have a little term we call would you? Would you do this or would you do that? And so as you're talking to somebody, rule number one for me is to understand what is the real value. What's the retail value? What's the resale value of something I'm dealing with? I'll go back 40 years ago and talk about one of the 4-unit building that we bought that we ended up donating to the foundation a few years ago. And the first thing was, and again, all you can do is add zeros. And it's not so much the dollar amount, it's the percentages. We want you to understand the percentages. That's really the key. But I knew that this little 4-unit building was worth around $80,000. And I knew what the value was on it. And the seller had bought it for 30,000 years, probably 7 to 10 years earlier. So he'd bought it for 30 grand. In his mind, that's what his basis was. And as we were negotiating and talking about it, I asked him, well, what are you looking for? How much are you looking for out of it? And if I remember right, he came up with the $60,000 price point. It might have been a little bit more than that. We might have negotiated it down a little bit. Knowing value and knowing resale value is the key, though. So I knew that I was buying it for under market because I knew the marketplace. Now, if you took me shopping for clothes or shoes or something like that, I wouldn't have a clue what anything was worth. I don't know what the value is. I could take my daughter with me and she could tell me. So that's really key, is to have other people on your team. And men, you need women on your team as you're doing these, especially if you're fixing up any kind of properties. You got to fix it up for women because they're the ones that have the most vote. But as we were negotiating, I asked him a bunch of questions. Well, what is it that you really want to accomplish with this? And why are you selling? The question is, why are you selling? And he said, well, we've been managing this property for, I don't know, it might have been 10, 15 years, whatever it was. And he lived next door to it. So the good news is he was close. The bad news is he was close and he was just tired of managing it. And he was an older gentleman. His name was Delfoot, wonderful gentleman. And I literally sat down at the kitchen table with a yellow pad and we just started doodling out some ideas. And I said, well, what are you trying to accomplish? Well, why are you selling this? What's wrong with the property? Well, there's nothing really wrong with the property. I'm just tired of managing it. So what's his motivation? Well, he wants to do something different with it. Now, he could have got a management team, but that would have cost him some extra money and stuff like that. So what we did is I asked him a lot of questions and I solved his problem. Now, if I would have gone to the bank and got all of his money, which means I would have put the $5,000 down and then gone to the bank and got the balance of $55,000, he would have got all that cash. And because he'd owned it so long, his tax basis was basically just the cost of the land, because he had already taken all the tax benefit out of it. So if I gave him one big lump sum of cash, then he'd have to pay a bunch of that in taxes, because it all came in one lump sum. And he wasn't very excited about that. And I asked him, what are you going to do with the money? And he says, well, I'm just going to put it in the bank. Well, the bank's not paying you anything right now. The interest rates were low, and the bank's not going to pay him anything. So he wasn't excited about that. So I says, well, how about if I solve your problem this way? How about if I give you a down payment, and then I'm going to make you monthly payments? So you get that monthly income stream. You get that monthly check, which is what you really want, because if something happens to you, then your wife gets it. And if something happens to her, then the kids get it. And the interest rates were a little bit higher. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a 10% rate of return on it. Now, if he would have taken all of his cash and put it in the bank, they would have paid him about maybe 3%, maybe 4%. So he would have got a $60,000, but he would have had to pay probably $12,000 to $15,000 just in taxes. And then he was only going to get a 3% rate of return on it. By doing it this other way, by me saying, hey, I'm going to give you the down payment, and then I'm going to make you monthly payments, and I'm going to give you a higher rate of return, he's getting money over time, so his taxes are less, and B, his rate of return is much higher. And he got what he really wanted, which was monthly payments. Now you're going, well, nobody's ever going to go do that. Everybody wants cash. Well, you know what? Out of 100 pieces of real estate, 2 or 3 of them fit our criteria. Now, and I've worked with billionaires, and it's the same thing. They're going to analyze pretty hard 100 properties. Out of that, only 2 or 3 fit their criteria. And out of that 2 or 3, they might buy 1, maybe. So it's no different for anything else you're doing. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's out there. 98% of it, 97% don't fit our criteria. And then from there, we're going to analyze the heck out of that 3%, and hopefully 1 out of the 3 fits our deal. So the first thing in negotiation is sitting down and doodling out on a piece of paper. And would you take monthly payments? Well, why would I do that? Well, because you're not going to have to pay as much in taxes. Would you take this? Would you take $60,000 for it? Would you take $55,000 if I gave you a little bit higher interest rate? The little key word is would you? Would you take this? And then what happens is that you've come up to agreement. Then you simply write in simple language what you just agreed to. I agree to buy this property for $60,000. I'm going to give you $5,000 as a down payment. The $55,000 we're going to pay over 15 years at a 10% rate or 10% interest rate, which is $591.03 a month. And then if they sign it, then we take that and we transfer it to the big scary offer form. More deals have walked away because you hand them this big scary offer with all the legalese and all the escape clauses and all that other junk that goes with it. And people back out and they get scared. The only thing that I really want in my offer is the basic terms. And then what I want is I want to have the right to do my due diligence on it. I need some time to look at the property. I need to see if there's any issues with the property. What's it going to cost to fix it up? I need to talk to my partner. So basically, the only escape clause I have in there is that the buyer will have 30 days or 21 days to do its due diligence on the property. And then if you decide you don't want the property, then you can back out at that time. So it's very, very different of how we do it. And that's how we do our negotiations. Number two is find out, so and whenever you're negotiating, that's how we do it on real estate. If we're doing it on other businesses or with people or rates of return or interest, stuff like that, then it's really kind of crucial that you find out what they're looking for. And then you've got to make sure that you can make the math work. Because if it's win-lose or lose-win, it's going to be short term. We would rather make long-term money over months and months and years than and have it smaller, but more often than one big chunk, and then we're done and we don't have the ability to do it again. So that's kind of the crucial piece on that. So in negotiation, that's kind of what we're doing, make it win-win or no deal. You're not going to screw somebody into the corner because it's, forced against your will. You have the same opinion still. So those are some of the pieces that we have in negotiation. So we're out of time, guys. Thank you so much for joining with us. We appreciate you being here with us. We're going to say goodbye to our friends from around the world. Make sure you go share the wealth. Share the wealth with other people. Share the wealth. Give away, we're giving away free books. We're giving away stock and crypto and memberships. Why? Because we're a foundation. We're a charity. Our goal is to improve people's lives. That's what we do. And we're supported by best-selling authors, educators, and entrepreneurs. That's how we do what we do. So thank you so much for watching. We're going to say goodbye to our friends from around the world, and we'll see all of you next week.